Finding my voice. The turning point. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the small suburban house that had been my home for over a decade. Inside, the tension was palpable, like a coiled spring ready to snap. The day had been long and taxing, and I could sense something was coming, but I wasn't prepared for the bombshell that would be dropped that evening. My mother-in-law, Margaret, had always been a formidable presence. Her sharp tongue and unwavering opinions often left little room for opposition. That night, as we gathered around the dinner table, she fixed her piercing gaze on me, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "You know, Laura," she began, her voice dripping with disdain, "it's high time we had a serious discussion about your role in this family." My heart pounded in my chest, and I glanced at my husband James, hoping for some support, but he sat silently, his eyes glued to his plate, avoiding my gaze. "You see," Margaret continued, her voice rising, "James is the one who brings home the money. He's the breadwinner. And you? What do you do? You are useless, Laura." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I felt the sting of tears in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I had given up my career to raise our son, Thomas, and had devoted myself entirely to our family. Yet here I was, being diminished to nothing more than a burden. "I've had enough," I said quietly, my voice trembling. "If that's how you truly feel, then there's no reason for me to stay here any longer." With that, I rose from the table, my legs unsteady but my resolve firm. I walked away from the house, the echoes of Margaret's cruel words ringing in my ears. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to get away, to find a place where I could breathe, think, and reclaim my sense of self-worth. The cool evening air wrapped around me as I wandered aimlessly through the neighborhood. Memories of happier times flashed through my mind. Thomas's first steps, family holidays, the laughter we once shared. But those moments felt distant now, overshadowed by the harsh reality of Margaret's judgment. As I walked, I found myself at the local park, a place where I had often taken Thomas to play. I sat down on a bench, the weight of the day's events pressing down on me. Tears finally spilled over, and I let them flow freely, releasing the pent-up frustration and hurt. "Laura?" I looked up to see Emma, a friend from the community, standing nearby. She sat down beside me, her expression full of concern. "What happened?" she asked gently. I took a deep breath and recounted the evening's events, the words pouring out in a torrent of emotion. Emma listened patiently, her presence a comforting balm to my wounded spirit. "You are not useless," she said firmly when I finished. "Raising a child is one of the most important jobs in the world. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Her words gave me a glimmer of hope, a reminder that my worth wasn't tied to a paycheck or Margaret's approval. I had value, and it was time I started believing in it myself. With Emma's support, I made a decision. I would return to the house, not to grovel or apologize, but to stand up for myself and my contributions. I was determined to reclaim my dignity and demand the respect I deserved. When I walked back into the house, Margaret was still in the dining room, her expression smug. James looked up, a mixture of guilt and relief in his eyes. "Margaret," I said, my voice steady and strong, "I won't tolerate being treated like this any longer. I have given everything to this family, and I deserve respect. If you can't offer that, then we need to reconsider our living arrangements." There was a stunned silence, but I didn't waver. I had found my voice, and I wasn't going to let it be silenced again. James finally spoke up, his voice tentative but supportive. "Mom, Laura's right. We need to be a team, and that means respecting each other." Margaret's face hardened, but she said nothing. I could see the battle in her eyes, but it wasn't my fight to win. I had made my stand, and that was enough. From that day forward, things slowly began to change. It wasn't easy. and there were still moments of tension, but I had reclaimed my sense of worth. I started taking steps to rebuild my career, finding ways to balance my professional aspirations with my role as a mother. A week later, I was at the community center, signing up for a part-time course in graphic design. It was something I had always been passionate about, but had put aside to focus on my family. As I filled out the registration form, I felt a sense of excitement and purpose that I hadn't felt in years. At home, I began to notice small changes. James started to step up more with household chores and spending time with Thomas. He even began to challenge Margaret when she made snide comments. It was clear that our confrontation had been a wake-up call for him as well. One evening, after a particularly trying day, James and I sat on the porch watching the sunset. He took my hand in his grip warm and reassuring. "I'm sorry, Laura," he said softly. "I've been blind to how much you've sacrificed for us. I promise I'll do better." I squeezed his hand, grateful for his words. "Thank you, James. We both need to do better, for each other and for Thomas." As summer turned to fall, our family found a new rhythm. Margaret, though still difficult at times, seemed to be making an effort to be less critical. I continued my classes, and with Emma's encouragement, even started taking on small freelance projects. Each new task was a step towards rebuilding my career and my confidence. One afternoon, as I was working on a design project at the kitchen table, Thomas came in, his face flushed with excitement. "Mom, look what I made!" he exclaimed, holding up a colorful drawing. I smiled, taking the paper from him. "This is wonderful, Thomas. You're so talented." He beamed at my praise, and I felt a swell of pride. Seeing my son happy and thriving reminded me of why I had made the choices I did. Being there for him, nurturing his creativity and confidence, was invaluable. A few months later, during a family gathering, Margaret stood up to make a toast. I braced myself, unsure of what to expect. "I want to acknowledge Laura," she began, her tone surprisingly gentle. "I've been hard on you, and for that I'm sorry. You've shown strength and grace, and it's clear that you're an important part of this family." I felt a lump in my throat and tears prickling at my eyes. Margaret's words were a small victory, a sign that maybe, just maybe, things could continue to improve. Life continued to move forward, with its ups and downs, but I faced each day with a renewed sense of purpose and confidence. I had learned to stand up for myself, to demand the respect I deserved, and to find value in my own contributions. As the years passed, I watched Thomas grow into a kind, creative young man. James and I strengthened our relationship, learning to support and appreciate each other more fully. And Margaret, though never completely easy to get along with, became more bearable, her harsh edges softened by time and reflection. One evening, as I stood by the window, watching Thomas play in the yard, I reflected on how far I had come. The journey had been challenging, but it had also been transformative. I had found my voice, my strength, and my worth. The sun set, casting its warm glow over the house. Life was far from perfect, but I had found my footing, and I knew that no matter what came next, I was ready to face it with courage and conviction. And in that moment, I realized that walking away that night wasn't a sign of weakness, but of strength. It was the turning point that allowed me to rediscover my own value and demand the respect I deserved. And for that, I was grateful. Rediscovering Strength. Laura's life takes a dramatic turn when her mother-in-law, Margaret, declares her useless compared to her breadwinning husband, James. Overwhelmed by the hurtful accusation, Laura walks away from her home, determined to reclaim her self-worth. With the support of a compassionate friend, she begins a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. As she stands up for herself and redefines her role within the family, Laura finds new strength and purpose. Rediscovering Strength is a heartfelt tale of resilience, the importance of self-respect, and the transformative power of standing up for oneself.